What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Herta, the one and only Herta. We are going to be taking a deep dive into the Herta's kit in today's video. I am also going to throw in a little bit of calculations towards the end or the middle of the video. And just a little disclaimer, these are not like exact numbers just yet. Like I don't have my full crackdown spreadsheet built just yet, but think of it as more of a rough estimate of what you can expect from a Herta. As always, if you enjoy this type of content, let me know by liking the video, leave it a comment in the comment section below, and consider subscribing to the channel. Shout out to our channel members one more time. Also, I have been more active on my Twitch. I want to get that going. So if you could please give me a follow at twitch.tv/iSUMMON YT. A lot of this calculation content and all my daily content is going to be over at my Twitch. So please drop me a follow and let's get right into the video. All right, a lot of you liked my little diagram that I made in my previous video, my Aglia video. You guys love the diagram, so I'm going to keep this format going. It's a little easier to understand when you guys can visually see a representation of what is going on in her kit as I explain it. Herta's kit has a lot of wording, a lot of babble, a lot of mumbo jumbo, but it's actually very simple to understand. And once you understand it the first time, I think it's really easy to retain what it actually happens. So essentially, she excels as an Erudition character. She excels at having multiple enemies. Now, the problem that a lot of Erudition characters have is that they deal the exact same amount of damage regardless of what type of enemy it is or how many enemies are on the field. So for instance, Argenti, the multiplier is the same across all 5 enemies, same as regular Herta, same as Jade, I think. All these Erudition characters have that same issue. Herta decided to fix this issue by stacking these little thingies called interpretation or something on the enemies, and depending on how high that interpretation stacks are, the more damage the enemy is going to take. And it's actually not a small amount, it's a very big amount. Depending on your team composition, it's going to be a very significant buff, the amount of damage that you're going to be increasing by per stack, I should say. So there's something very important to take into consideration, and it is understanding how Herta's skill actually deals damage to the enemies, because the wording on it is a little bit iffy. So essentially, when Herta picks a target for her skill, you're going to do single target damage to the main target. For instance, this is going to be the True Sting. After that, the second instance of damage is going to trigger and is going to take the adjacent enemies from the main target and deal the exact same amount of damage. So it's going to take this one and deal the same amount of damage that we just dealt to the first one. Obviously, it scales off the stacks, but when we get there, I'll explain more what that would be. And then that'll be the second instance of damage. Now, the third instance of damage, it essentially makes these two the main targets now. So the same thing that happened on the first one, that you hit the first one and then the adjacent targets got hit with the splash. These are the main ones now, and then the adjacents are going to get hit with the splash. So essentially how it goes is Herta chooses True Sting as her main target. The splash damage hits these two, and then the splash damage for these guys hits the outer one, the outer enemy, and then the middle enemy again. So essentially the main target is going to take 3 instances of damage, which is the first initial hit, and then the 2 splash damages from the 2 adjacent. Technically, the 2 adjacents are going to take the first adjacent hit and then the secondary adjacent hit, and then the third ones, the outer ones, the ones on the corners, are just going to take 1 instance of damage. So essentially, middle one takes 3 instances of damage, the 2 adjacent take 2 instances of damage each, and then the ones on the far left or far right are going to take 1 instance of damage. Hopefully I made that a little bit easier to understand. So I'm just going to put these numbers here so you can visualize how many instances of damage each enemy is going to take per skill or per enhanced skill. Essentially, the enhanced skill has an extra AoE hit at the end, but we're going to cover that a little bit later, okay? But now that we understand kind of how the damage spreads around, it's a little bit easier to visualize how her kit works. Now, another component of Herta's kit in which she increases her own personal damage is by having her own stacks over here. So essentially, whenever any ally attacks an enemy that has an inspiration stack, she is going to increase her own ultimate's damage multiplier by 1% per stack. She also has a trait that increases the number of inspiration stacks gained by the main target by 1. So to make this super easy to understand, however many targets you are hitting, for example, Herta's ultimate deals damage to 5 enemies. If each of them have the interpretation stack, which is this little stack on the top, per stack here, Herta is going to gain 1 stack down here, but she has a trait that gives her 1 extra stack because you're kind of stacking the main target with 2 stacks. So essentially, if you hit the Herta ultimate here, everybody here is going to increase. This is going to be a pain to make these all 2s. So all of them increase to 2 except for the main target that increases to 3 because that is the main target. What the hell? This is the main target. So the main target gets an extra stack. Now in total, we added 6 stacks. It'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So which means Herta's own personal damage increase for her ultimate is going to increase to 6. And this is essentially how Herta's kit functions. So however many enemies you hit, you add 1, and that is the amount of stacks that she's going to be gaining here. She also has a mechanic that makes it easier to stack these numbers over here on bigger bosses, because since they have more HP, they're less likely to die quicker, but the little ones usually die fairly quickly. So let's say you eliminate this little true sting over here, it dies. These 2 stacks get added on to the target with the most stacks, and it prioritizes elites and bosses. So for True Sting, this 3 now becomes a 5. So now for True Sting, this 3 just became a 5. And then if let's say all 4 of these die, then the obviously this will become a 11 because, you know, whatever, we had 8 plus the 3 of the True Sting, it becomes 11, and so on and so forth. So essentially, she's going to be stacking onto the main targets. The beefier they are, the longer they take to die, the more stacks they're going to have. Herta's ultimate is just an AoE hit, and it increases Herta's attack by 64% when firing off the ultimate, which means every enhanced skill that Herta does is going to have an increase of 64% attack, as well as the ultimate is going to have a 64% attack increase. Also, when the Herta activates her ultimate, she enables her skill to become her advanced skill, which deals higher damage multipliers and has a final hit at the tail end of it. So we talked about these stacks and how do they work, but what do they actually do? Well, the multiplier for the enhanced skill is going to increase by 8% to the main target and 5% to the adjacent target per stack. So right now, 5 and 2, True Sting is going to receive a multiplier increase of 40, and then the lesser sting, because it has 2, it's going to increase a multiplier of 10 because it's per stack and it's 8% and 5. However, if you have another Erudition character on the team, which in this case we have normal Herta or dummy Herta, those effects are doubled. So essentially this would be 16 times 5, which is 80, and then it'd be 10 times 2, which is 20, because it is per stack. Now these have a max of 42, so this can only stack up to 42, and it's actually not that hard to stack up to 42, because remember, if you're killing the small ones, all these numbers are getting added into the True Sting or the big boss while you're killing it. And at the same time, these stacks down here are increasing. These stacks down here increase the multiplier for the ultimate by 1% per stack, and these stack all the way up to 99. So you can have 99 stacks of this and then 42 stacks of these. And when that happens, Herta's damage can get pretty crazy. So that is how she deals with bigger bosses. As far as her gameplay loop, I chose this team right here because she needs another Erudition character, hopefully one that attacks more often. So regular Herta, Jade, we got Himiko, all those guys. Argenti, I don't really like Argenti here because he doesn't have any follow-ups. So I would prefer an Erudition character that has follow-up attacks. And then also we have Aventurine. Lincha works pretty well too here because they all attack all the enemies with their follow-up attacks, which is great. And then obviously Robin boosts everybody else in the team. That is why this team is built the way it does. So essentially what you want to do is use your skill and then blast everybody, increase these stacks up here. At the same time you're hitting them and increasing these stacks up here, you are increasing Herta's stacks up here. And then obviously Herta is doing the same thing, AoE hits, increasing all of their stacks. Remember that every AoE hit on 5 enemies is going to increase the this number down here by 6. And let's say you do Herta, you increase it by 6, you do other Herta, Kuru, and then you increase it by 6 again. You get hit down here or you get hit down here, and then Aventurine triggers the follow-up. Everybody gets hit again. You already are sitting at like about 24 stacks, so your multiplier is already increased by 24%, and these stacks are presumably going to be increased. This is probably going to be like 17 or 18, and these are going to be like 4. No, actually, these are going to be like 7 or 8. But if you kill one of these, like I said before, all of these stacks, let's say you kill these 2, all of these numbers get all added into here, you know? So it's really, it becomes really easy to stack Herta's interpretation And once you get to 42 stacks, and this is where the calculation is going to come in, you're going to see some really, really juicy numbers, especially if you have it buffed by Robin. And you also have her own buff, because when you have another Erudition character on the team, she gets an increased 80% crit damage on everybody on the team. So that's actually insane. So her numbers can get pretty crazy, but her only caveat is that she needs to stack. She is not a character that turn one is going to be doing like 500k. You know, she's going to take a little while to stack. And she excels in bosses that have spawns, kind of like True Sting, that keep spawning and spawning and spawning. And then that way she can keep stacking on the main boss and then hopefully nuke it. Another intricacy that I forgot to mention is that whenever you use your enhanced skill, all the stacks get reset to 1. This is the only thing that I don't like about this kit. However, they do get reset to 1, but if you kill them, let's say this True Sting has 5, right? And you do your enhanced skill, everybody gets reset to 1. Since these people died with the 2 stacks, they're also going to get added into True Sting. So True Sting is going to be down to 1. All the ones that died are going to give the stacks to True Sting. So essentially this is going to be 9 and not 1, because you added these other 8 stacks because they did die. So, you know, that's the only part of this kit that I don't really like. But I mean, it's not horrible, it's not game breaking, it's not like she's trash now, you know? All right, this is gonna be a quick calculation portion of the video, just so you guys can see a visual representation of how her damage can stack. So right now we have a damage table, we have the enemy stacks, we have Herta stacks for her ultimate. The Herta stacks affect the ultimate, the enemy stacks affect the enhanced skill. And then these are the totals. Now, the enhanced skill is the same thing as the regular skill, but it has a final hit of about 40% attack AoE to everybody right at the tail end of it. So that's why this one's a little bit higher, and also has the highest multipliers here, because remember, per stack, everything is increasing by 16% or by 5%. Now, so with the E skill, I had to do a little bit of mathematical gymnastics because there is a lot of moving parts here. So the single target, the main target that you choose is going to be getting hit with the 16% multiplier increase per stack. And then the rest of them are going to get hit by the 10% increase per stack. However, they also stack differently because the main target is also going to be getting extra interpretation stacks. And then the rest of them are only just going to be getting 1. So to calculate this, I kind of like did my mental simulation type of deal, and then it took me a little while. This is why this video is so late. So I calculated that on average, all the enemies that are not the main enemies are on average going to have 10% of the stacks depending on how fast you're killing them. So on a fight that enemies keep spawning and then you have a main target, the main target is going to have about 90% more stacks than the rest of them during the late game. So these could be, it's so dynamic that there's no way to actually calculate it without running a simulation, but I did kind of like a rough estimation. And then obviously this, I already explained it though, per stack of these, the ultimate stacks, the ultimate multiplier is going to increase by 1. So the max multiplier the ultimate can have is 299 AoE to everybody, which is insane. Now notice that these numbers are at 1 interpretation stacks and 0 Herta stacks. Let's say this is Herta's like 3rd or 4th turn. So the main enemy is probably going to have around, let's give him 20 stacks here. At 20 stacks, your total for the enhanced skill is already going to be at 345. Again, this is rough estimation. It could be a lot less. It could be a little bit. It's not going to be more. It's not going to be more by that much, but it could be a lot less because it just depends on how you're killing the enemies and how you're stacking them. But on average, it's going to be 345,000, which is pretty strong. And then at the same time, if you have 20 of these stacks, then it's safe to say that you have 20 of these stacks because they stack kind of 1 to 1 to each other. So if you go in from the ultimate 177 into your enhanced skill, you're going to be dealing about 500k damage roughly. Let's say there's a really, really long fight and you're able to stack her ultimate, her multiplier all the way up. You have 240,000 on her ultimate, and then her skill, let's say you have one enemy that has 42 stacks, bada bing, bada boom, you're going to be hitting for about 500k. And I think in this particular Excel spreadsheet, I only have Robin and a Herta in here, and I didn't add Adventurine because there's no AoE debuff there, at least an E0 S0 Adventurine. So this damage could be a little bit better. Like I haven't done the calculations with Ruan May, haven't done calculations with Sunday or anything like that. So I just did Robin and the second Erudition character, and this is the numbers that we're getting right now. So it's definitely not negligible damage. It's nothing game breaking, but if you're doing this every other turn, it's actually pretty strong. All right, so hopefully this video helped you understand a little bit more of how Herta works and the little intricacies that she has on her kit. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Are you pulling for Herta? Are you more excited about Herta or Aglia? Let me know in the comment section, and until next time, guys. See ya.